Hi, my name is Paula Siegel. I'm the director of 596 Acres. We are a community land access advocacy organization based in New York City. I'm going to tell you about our replicable and scalable program for transforming regular people living in our neighborhoods into change agents, who then transform our cities, making them more accessible, more just, and a little smarter, safer, and healthier. This is New York City. Our collected tactics directly address the distribution of life and death forces across the landscape, dropping magnets for vibrant vitality into areas that have been historical concentrations of conditions that draw death closer sooner. 596 Acres connects the potential of our data commons with the reality of vacant public land in our neighborhoods. We translate this into this. We're responding to a simple reality. The keys to the city are all around us. If only we could see them. By adding annotations to the landscape and making the city legible, we're putting keys into the hands of people who live in it. Our strategy was first developed in New York, and we continue to improve it there. It has also been adapted for and adopted by advocates in Philadelphia, Los Angeles, New Orleans, Pittsburgh, Melbourne, and Old Trafford, England. A pilot tool for Montreal launched this week. More on that in a bit. For the moment, I invite you to travel with me to my home borough, Brooklyn.
My name is Misbah Abdin. I live in City Line, East New York. I've been living in the same community for since 1982, which is almost 30 years.
My name is Pastor Timothy Olatukun. I live at 315 Beach 92nd Street, Rockaway Beach. I'm a pastor. I've been a pastor for about 18 years, and I'm a business owner.
My name is Kristen Bernardi-Rapp. I work as a freelance writer, and I live here in the neighborhood in Bed-Stuy. I am one of the founders of The Garden, along with Tia.
So my name is Shatia Jackson. Now I'm a struther. I recently got married.
Before The Garden was started, there was nothing here.
You know, we don't know who that land belonged to. That's the missing information, because we have been trying to get in touch with everybody, calling them, send them a message, and nobody reply us.
There's an empty lot. Nobody cared. A lot of people fear to go in because they don't know what to do, and they might get arrested or doing anything, even myself.
Vacant lots have just been around all the time, but I don't think it has been something that people thought they could change until recently.
Community lots and the community work, that makes us interact. That's how we becoming friends, and I think it's a good thing, and that's the way it should be. New York should be going right now.
The community is for the people.
So our signs have gotten a little bit snazzier over the years. I've got the latest design here on stage with me. It's going to be staying in Montreal. In order to be able to decode the data and get good information to where it can turn into action, we built a powerful open source tool and put it in a place where other advocates like us can find it too, online. This map is designed to answer a single question: where is our land? New York has placed thousands of spreadsheets in its open data portal, but when it comes to vacant public land, we found that the city's data isn't very good. It's notoriously blind to existing uses, incomplete, and over-inclusive. Information about land holdings is maintained by the Department of Finance for tax collection purposes. and it's not meticulously tracked for public lands on which no taxes are due to be collected. Community gardens appear as vacant land from the perspective of New York City's Department of City Planning, no matter how permanent or protected they are under New York state law. And 5-inch slivers of property appear as individual lots in the same format as abandoned acres. This gives the illusion that vacant lots are evenly distributed in New York City. They're not. They're clustered, reflecting a history of redlining, neglect, race-based marketing patterns, and an uneven application of urban renewal, which starts with a declaration that a neighborhood is substandard somehow, followed by demolition and clearance to make way for new development. This strategy for manufacturing modernity was put forward and funded by the United States federal government in 1949, disproportionately applied by municipalities to neighborhoods where communities of color had taken root. It was challenged in the courts and upheld. In 1954, the same year that the United States Supreme Court mandated the desegregation of education, it declared that renewal and slum clearance were legitimate actions, even if they uprooted established integrated communities, even if they were being used to transfer private property belonging to racial minorities to established and connected white business owners. The Supreme Court recognized the elimination of blight, a metaphor borrowed from the plant world, as a legitimate government interest, and allowed the federal government to continue funding the wholesale erasure of neighborhoods and histories. In the United States and in cities around the world, we've been practicing a version of Adolf Hitler's final direction for saving his nation by destroying a part of it. At the end of World War II, Hitler was ready to eliminate Berlin to save Germany. To renew New York, our Slum Clearance Commission, under the supervision of Robert Moses, bulldozed Harlem, the Lower East Side, Coney Island, North Brooklyn, and vast stretches of the Rockaways in Queens. Moses' job was bringing federal funds available for the remaking of United States cities into New York. By 1960, he declared that task complete. The wheels of renewal had been set into motion. These maps show the areas where federal demolition money was spent between 1949 and 1968. I've juxtaposed the 1968 demolition map of Manhattan with a present-day map of vacant public land in Manhattan, combined with community gardens, lots where neighbors have turned the gaps left behind by federally funded bulldozers into pockets of love and abundance. Here's the same juxtaposition for Brooklyn. And here's what it looks like from the ground. Urban renewal was meant to come in 4 phases. The first 3 government-funded to make way for private interest to take on the 4th. Unsurprisingly, private interests have only filled in the attractive voids created for them in areas where profit was likely. In places like Brownsville, communities are still waiting. In our investigation of the legacy of urban renewal, we learned concretely that we were looking directly into the ghost face of the present. Urban renewal is one of those invisible keys New Yorkers need to understand what's happening to their neighborhoods. The federal government declared the urban renewal program a failure and stopped funding it in 1974. The city of New York has adopted 82 urban renewal plan areas since then, with no federal aid. The creative destruction continues. There are currently 63 active urban renewal plan areas citywide. 596 Acres created the first ever atlas of all of them and published it in print and online. Remember those clusters? And just to look at them in a slightly different way, here is a zoom in of a neighborhood in the hot zone of our urban renewal history, Brownsville. Lots of lots, lots of gardens, lots of organizing opportunities. And here's another one that was spared the creative destruction of federally funded demolition. Just houses. We're dancing with ghosts. Living lots is a map of organizing opportunities, disaggregated from places that are already organized and parcels that are too small or too hard to reach. Although imperfect, data does exist from several municipal sources and has been harmonized with information about community gardens and other uses maintained by support organizations and the personal knowledge of advocates and residents. Here's one row of that analyzed and rationalized data, disaggregated and placed in its appropriate context. That single row represents a potential transformation that will impact everyone who lives nearby or passes through. Signs make sure that the information available reaches the neighbors of our neglected spaces. These are the people with the most motivation and opportunity to actually transform information into action. Our efforts over the last 3 years have resulted in the creation of 32 new official community spaces, all located where vacant lots used to be. We have interrupted the narrative of scarcity that permeates all talk of real estate in New York with the reality of abundance. There are over 600 acres of vacant public land in New York, spread over more than 1,000 individual parcels, each of which presents an organizing opportunity. Cities are the ultimate tools of what Michel Foucault termed biopower, the power to make live and let die. When our maps show us the objects that matter for the production of life, we can most accurately observe that governance is not a question of imposing law on people, but of regulating things so that individual conduct situates itself within a determined frame of possible actions. As Foucault reminds us, the finality of government resides in the things it manages and in the pursuit of the perfection and intensification of the processes it directs. New York on a map shows us areas where resources are pooled and vast steppes where resources are scarce. Neighborhoods themselves reproduce vulnerability despite a widespread rhetoric of diversity and inclusiveness. Capital and the things that make life pleasant flee from areas where they're already lacking. Deleterious conditions concentrated in certain neighborhoods are not an accidental convergence, but rather a systemic deprivation enabled through the production of urban geographies. Power congeals in pools of inequality that carry with them their own gravitational pull. Piling burdens on those who are already burdened is certainly an effective means of sparing those with the best chances of survival from exposure to death. These places burdened with demolition and the present-day concentration of vacant lots, these are the neighborhoods where foreclosures are concentrated, where vast numbers of people pay more than 50% of their income in rent, where renters most often find themselves in housing court. These are the neighborhoods from which jail and prison populations are drawn and to which they return, bringing the trauma and violence of their experiences back home. The neighborhoods to which you have to take a bus because the subway doesn't reach them. The neighborhoods where no hospitals ever opened and those that did are closing. The neighborhoods with few grocery stores and fewer farmers markets, the places without parks, but with trash incinerators. These are also the neighborhoods where the majority of New York City's people of color live. And in case you're starting to think this is just a condition unique to New York City, here's some little bits of Montreal. Here, too, the question is begging to be answered. The history is just beneath the grasses. Nope. I don't know. As New York City's community land access advocates, we provide tailored information and a hub around which local organizers can gather to build power and develop a strategy to achieve a local transformation. The hub includes a dedicated page for each living lot that allows interested people to find one another and share information about the status and goals of a particular campaign. The tool also connects particular decision makers inside government with the lots they have power over. It disaggregates and makes transparent the black box of municipal decision-making. It also gives us a place to share research about the relevant history of a particular lot. For example, to highlight that it was acquired by the city via eminent domain for a public project that was never completed. Our New York City hub also includes a real person, a staff organizer, who connect by phone or in person with those less comfortable in the web context. Our organizer helps interpret information and make plans with groups to address decision makers. We published an advocate's guide to community land access in New York City. We share this widely with New Yorkers, each of whom is a potential advocate. And today I've brought some to share with you. They're at the edge of the stage. Please do come up and grab one at the end. As we all know, it's never a straight line from recognizing the potential of a vacant public space and a possible project to actually realizing it. But being able to sequence a set of actions and carry them out is nonetheless the key. We're growing a network of New Yorkers and advocates in cities around the world who've done this before, who we gather regularly in person for community-based education about our already existing commons and to problem solve together. And of course, we send a weekly update with the current news from the Acres that highlights ongoing campaigns, new discoveries, and activities happening at the lots to which we've facilitated community access. In addition, our New York City organizing community is supported by an attorney, that's me, who can help, it's true, who can help navigate more complex situations in which the power of numbers isn't enough. Even in those situations, the power of numbers helps. That's us in court. The right to the city is a right that must be enforced with the same zealousness as the right to freedom of speech or the right to be free from cruel and unusual punishment. When we build tools with advocates in other cities, the local organizations commit to providing the staff to support the use of living lots by residents in their city. Through a focused tool and dedicated support, lines of data in impenetrable spreadsheets become dots on an interactive map, which become signs on fences that inspire groups to scheme and campaign and succeed in creating vibrant spaces where people create the city together. Through our living lots, residents of cities can collectively express their right to self-determination and act on the basic human need to control our environments. For the thousands of New Yorkers, most of them youth, people of color, and immigrants, whose lives we've impacted, starting a community garden or a neighborhood play space is an entry point to a lifetime of advocacy. By getting involved in a single lot, residents learn how to make the city they live in a little bit more like the city they want to live in. The urban is not a simple product of the process of industrial production and capital accumulation. Instead, it is akin to a work of art that is constantly being made anew by its inhabitants, a space of encounter that allows differences to flourish and generates the contemporary conditions for creative human communities. Groups and individuals prevented from fully participating in this collective creative act are denied the right to the city, a right to create ourselves by shaping the environment we live in. It's a right to be the city, not just a right to be urbanized and be in the city. And I'll now invite Michael Saint-Pierre to talk a little bit about how that right is being enforced here.
Bonjour, Michael Saint-Pierre, je suis cofondateur de Lande Montréal, qui est en fait une adaptation très libérale de 596 Acres. Before starting, I'd like to thank Paula. She's been kind enough to welcome us in New York. She's been fine enough to welcome us at the 596 Acres office and at her home also. And she's giving us time right now to show you our new tool. So thank you very much. I hope you'll forgive me. I'll do the next bit in French, but I'll pretty much say the same thing you just did. So. Voilà. Lande. Évidemment, nous sommes des passionnés de la ville. On a débuté il y a un peu moins d'un an, en fait. Il y a quelques moments, on s'appelait encore Urburb. Possiblement, vous avez entendu parler de nous. On a changé de nom. Cette semaine, on a lancé notre plateforme web qui permet de recenser les terrains vacants à Montréal. Quelques statistiques. En fait, c'est ça. Lande, on veut être une boîte à outils. On veut travailler sur 3 fronts. D'abord, cartographier, rendre l'information disponible pour les Montréalaises, les Montréalais, sur les informations sur les terrains vacants. Également, on veut accompagner des groupes citoyens dans la réappropriation de terrains vacants, de friches urbaines. Et finalement, on veut contribuer à la transformation de ces espaces-là de façon temporaire, transitoire ou un peu plus pérenne. Quelques statistiques, à Montréal, il existe 25 km² de terrains vacants. C'est énorme. Pour faire une petite vulgarisation, c'est l'équivalent de 37 fois le jardin botanique. Donc, ça vous donne une idée. C'est l'équivalent de 11,7 % du territoire montréalais. D'où nous vient cette statistique-là? C'est une statistique qui vient de la communauté métropolitaine de Montréal. Malheureusement, il y a très peu de connaissances qui existent à Montréal sur les terrains vacants. On travaille à en créer, mais c'est la meilleure statistique qu'on a. De ces terrains, de ces 25 km² de terrains vacants-là, ce qu'il faut savoir, c'est qu'un peu plus du tiers appartiennent à la Ville de Montréal. Le reste, c'est des propriétaires privés ou encore un très infime pourcentage, ça appartient au gouvernement du Québec. Donc, évidemment, on va avoir du démarchage différent selon le type de propriétaire de terrains vacants qui existe et l'intérêt qu'il y a. Vous devez vous en douter, évidemment, l'accès aux données à Montréal, au Québec en général, est parfois difficile. On a eu accès, on a été chanceux, on a eu accès aux fichiers, à toutes les informations sur les terrains vacants à Montréal. Malheureusement, ces données-là sont totalement erronées. Ce qui veut donc dire qu'on doit travailler de façon différente que les gens à New York pour avoir accès à des informations qui sont crédibles. Donc nous, pour notre plateforme web, on a décidé de demander aux usagers, en fait, de nous donner des informations. On appelle ça, dans le jargon des informaticiens, le crowdsourcing data, c'est-à-dire on demande aux usagers de nous donner des informations. Nous, par la suite, on les traite, on les analyse pour qu'elles soient plus compréhensibles. Ça nous permet d'avoir, des données actuelles, on s'en doute, des données qui sont crédibles en temps réel. Également, ça devient un outil de sensibilisation. Je vais vous montrer dans quelques instants notre outil web qu'on a lancé cette semaine. Ça permet très rapidement de voir ce qu'il y en est dans son quartier ou même au travers la ville, des terrains vacants. Présentement, on est chanceux, on en a plus d'une trentaine. Des usagers nous ont donné une trentaine de terrains vacants et on peut voir, ça part de l'est à l'ouest, il y en a vraiment beaucoup. Et ultimement, ça devient un outil de mobilisation et ce mot-là est super important pour nous. Lande veut contribuer à la revalorisation des terrains vacants à Montréal. On ne veut pas nécessairement aller avec une bêche et des marteaux, etc., quoi qu'on va probablement le faire un peu, mais on ne veut pas aller faire des jardins ou des espaces de jeu ou peu importe n'importe quoi. On veut vraiment accompagner, mobiliser, et ce mot-là est super important. On veut placer les citoyens au cœur de la ville, au cœur de ce chantier-là. On veut vraiment contribuer à renforcer les communautés et ultimement améliorer les quartiers. Je vous montre une image de notre site web. Ça, c'est ce à quoi il ressemblait jeudi matin, si je ne me trompe pas. Présentement, comme je vous dis, il y en a un petit peu plus. Chacune des flèches que vous voyez en orange, c'est un terrain vacant qui a été identifié. Nous, on reçoit une donnée géographique avec une adresse courriel de gens qui ont contribué. Et par la suite, on travaille pour aller chercher ces informations-là. Donc, vous voyez, c'est des informations super simples. Propriétaire, superficie, arrondissement, numéro de lot. C'est vraiment le strict minimum pour que quelqu'un puisse se débrouiller s'il veut en savoir plus sur ce terrain-là. C'est des données, vous le savez, qui sont publiques, donc nous, on n'invente rien. C'est très, très facile d'aller les chercher si on sait comment aller les chercher. Mais dans le bas de cette petite fenêtre qui vient d'apparaître, vous voyez, il y a 2 éléments. Contribuer à la revalorisation, également informer sur ce terrain. C'est là que ça devient un outil de mobilisation, en fait. On veut voir en temps réel c'est quoi l'intérêt pour les citoyens autour de ces espaces identifiés pour la revalorisation. Déjà, on a des espaces qui ont été identifiés où on a 5-6 personnes qui sont intéressées, qui donnent des idées. Nous, ce qu'on va faire par la suite, c'est qu'on va amorcer des démarches, amorcer des projets. On va rencontrer les gens, voir qu'est-ce qu'ils aimeraient faire, s'ils veulent s'impliquer, s'ils ont vraiment un projet à moyen terme, à long terme. Et par la suite, on va prendre des démarches avec les propriétaires, que ce soit la ville ou un propriétaire privé, pour avoir accès à ces terrains-là. Et ultimement, qu'il y ait des projets qui soient amorcés sur ces terrains vacants-là. J'ai envie de vous parler, je ne prendrai pas énormément de temps, évidemment, la star, ce n'est pas moi, ce n'est pas là, mais j'ai envie de vous parler quand même d'un petit projet, en fait pas un petit projet, un beau projet qu'on accompagne, qui est situé dans l'arrondissement Rosemont-Petite-Patrie. C'est un jardin communautaire, en fait, qui s'appelle le jardin communautaire Basile-Patnaud, situé au coin de la rue Masson et de la rue d'Iberville. Peut-être est-ce que vous connaissez. Voilà, c'est un jardin communautaire qui ressemble à tous les autres, en fait. Une centaine de familles y bénéficient. C'est dans un coin difficile, dans l'arrondissement Rosemont-Petite-Patrie. Il y a beaucoup de demandes dans cet arrondissement-là pour de l'espace à cultiver. Malheureusement ou heureusement, bien, ce jardin-là que vous voyez est bordé par 2 terrains vacants. Vous en voyez un ici, à l'ouest, et vous en voyez un second. Vous allez en voir un. Voilà, vous en voyez un qui est à l'est. Ces terrains-là, on s'en doute, c'est des irritants pour des familles, pour des individus qui veulent aller jardiner si ça a l'air de ça à l'année longue. Je disais que c'est peut-être une chance pour eux parce que c'est un potentiel incroyable, vous vous en doutez, de prendre de l'expansion. Donc, les gens du conseil d'administration du jardin communautaire nous ont approchés et ont demandé qu'est-ce qui est possible de faire avec ces 2 terrains-là. Donc, nous, on a fait du démarchage, on a fait un peu de recherche et on s'est rendu compte que ce jardin communautaire-là est présentement sur un terrain qui appartient à un propriétaire privé, mais qui est loué par la Ville de Montréal, on s'en doute. Ce qu'on a appris également, c'est que ces 2 parcelles vacantes sont louées depuis 32 ans par la Ville de Montréal. Même la Ville de Montréal ne le savait pas. Donc, présentement, on a réussi à avoir l'accès pour les gens du jardin communautaire à prendre de l'expansion sur ces 2 terrains-là. Les gens, présentement, sont en recherche de fonds, sont en train de s'organiser. Ils ont un architecte paysagiste, d'ailleurs, un des vôtres, qui les aide à faire des plans. Et il devrait y avoir une inauguration au mois de juillet avec des gens de l'UPA également qui sont partenaires dans le projet. Pour terminer, je finis avec une image thématique Noël. Vous allez me dire pourquoi vous terminez avec ça, parce que c'est probablement notre dernière neige aujourd'hui, on est tanné. Ce que je veux démontrer, c'est que Lande, c'est vraiment un esprit de collaboration. Hier, on a été chanceux, on a rencontré les gens de Conscience urbaine, les gens de Wild City Mapping. On veut être très, très proactif et on veut être des acteurs de changement et aider les gens à contribuer, à revaloriser, c'est-à-dire les terrains vacants. Je vois Caroline Magarde du Champ des possibles, on est très, très hâte de lui parler. On travaille également aussi avec les gens du Parc des Gorilles. Notre vision, mais comme j'ai dit au départ, c'est de contribuer à revaloriser les terrains vacants. Il y en a énormément. Et espérons que tous ensemble, et puis c'est une perche que je vous tends, amis architectes paysagistes, espérons que tous ensemble, on puisse aider, contribuer à ce que des groupes citoyens puissent passer de l'idée au projet de façon la plus facile possible. Merci.
Ah oui, je vous invite à rester les 2 sur la scène. Est-ce qu'il y a beaucoup de terrains, d'ailleurs, que la Ville de Montréal ne sait pas qu'elle sous-loue comme ça? Ça ferait peut-être l'objet d'un bon article. Là.
Ça peut le devenir.
Bon. Bref, on va procéder.
I'm just going to say welcome. Because that story of the city saying, oh, we didn't realize we owned that. We hear it all the time. It's totally normal. Because there's a reason that land is vacant. And most of the time, it's because we didn't realize we owned that. So, do you want to take some questions?
Période de questions pour Paula ou Michael.
Bonjour, hi. Caroline Poirier, qui travaille chez Faible Associés. En fait, question en français ou en anglais, ça serait la même. Que faites-vous, en fait, lorsque vous voulez justement proposer des terrains de jardins communautaires sur des sites contaminés? Je sais qu'il y a beaucoup de frais qui sont reliés à ça, beaucoup de problématiques. Donc, juste connaître les procédures par rapport à ça. Merci.
On a de la traduction simultanée sur scène. Merci, Michael.
Okay. So most of the land in our cities, we're actually a little bit lucky. It's incredibly contaminated, but it's contaminated with things that people built their houses with 100 years ago or 50 years ago. So lead, right? Lead is a metal. It's actually a relatively stable thing to have in your ground. You shouldn't eat it or breathe it. It will ruin your memory. It will make you very sick. There's all sorts of terrible things about lead, but as far as actually having to deal with lead, it's not very hard. It stays where it's put. So when most of the land in in New York City that we work with people on was a house at some point. The house came down. So we can just assume there's lead because there was lead in the paint. And so we just encourage everyone to cap it. Bring in cardboard, bring in mulch, bring in wood chips, bring in food scraps, put down a nice thick layer. There are situations that are more complicated, and you have to be careful. And we do encourage people to test, but generally what the tests come back with is lead, and a lot of it.
Autre question? Oui, on a Dino Bombarou là-bas.
Oui. Hi. Thank you very much for the presentation. I was interested in the little background about how you have the same time the Supreme Court fighting against human disright and then authorizing physical intervention that actually claim rights on people as a casualty. And somehow...
Courts don't fight. You know that, right? They just make decisions.
Sorry?
Courts don't fight, ever.
They don't make decisions.
They
make
just
judgment.
make decisions based on the limited questions that they are presented with.
Yeah. You apply that to your income tax report as well. You know, you just answer the question. But one of the things that it touches both of you, because I'm with Heritage Montreal, we were created in '75. We have concern that deal with heritage planning, the city development, and public processes. And one of the things that we are very concerned now is connected to very much what you're doing and what the Australians have developed in the 1970s, which is the green ban, and also the somehow the national estate, the idea of a national estate that deals that you have 3 doors in, but once you're in, every dimension has to be considered. You know, it was the natural, the Aboriginal, and the historical heritage that made up that, and even the Sydney Opera House has to be handled according to Aboriginal and the natural site. But one of our concerns now is perhaps less with land than with historic buildings that are going abandoned and orphaned, like gigantic hospital estates here. And is there a case that you found in New York of a general inspector of the civic estate? Because we have general inspector always dealing with contract agreement, collusion, you know, asphalt, the kind of stuff you find in The Simpsons all the time, but never about the physical estate in which people live, you know, the quality of the place. It's also related to la mobilisation citoyenne. Est-ce qu'on peut aussi espérer que la mobilisation citoyenne ne soit pas juste une bonne excuse pour excuser des mauvais aménagements? On peut-tu avoir de la bonne mobilisation puis des bons aménagements? C'est-tu compatible? So, Paul, do you have this inspector in your realm?
No.
Sounds like the Supreme Court.
We definitely don't. Courts do not inspect anything, right?
No, but
courts stay in the court, and you bring them a question, and it has to be very specific, and it has to be a legal question, and then they will answer it. That's all the courts do.
Yeah.
We do have building inspectors. We just sent a bunch of ours to jail.
Okay.
About 10 days ago for taking bribes. Some of the folks, actually, I take you on a little journey if I can go backwards. Oh, maybe I can't go backwards.
It's the red button.
I know. Oh, there, no?
Anyway. We're Latin here.
that didn't work at all. There is a young lady in the last group photo that I showed from court who's actually not a gardener. She is she's a grandma. She lives in East New York. She bought a house to raise her grandkids in. She bought it from a company that had the name H.P.D. LLC. HPD are the initials that our Department of Housing Preservation and Development uses. They actually provide some financing, some support for people to be able to become first-time homeowners. HPD LLC is not Housing Preservation and Development. They're just some jerks who wanted to confuse people into thinking they were buying property from a program that the government supported. They built the houses themselves. They somehow got them inspected and got certificates of occupancy. They gave these buyers balloon mortgages that after the first, I believe it was 16 months, the payments tripled. The woman who I would point out, oh, wait, maybe I can go backwards now. So she's a person who bought one of these houses. I talked to her on the phone a couple of days ago. She says every time it snows, her basement leaks. She has replaced all of the drywalls. There she is. She's in the background. She's smiling less than everybody else. Every time it snows, her basement leaks. Her pipes have exploded several times. The house is 4 years old. It was built 4 years ago. The roof leaks. The reason she's here in court with us is the same people who organized HPD LLC created another little company. LLC means limited liability company. It's called Housing Urban Development LLC. We have a federal agency. It's called the Department of Housing and Urban Development. Housing Urban Development LLC claims they own the property that the Maple Street Community Garden is on, and they've actually issued the gardeners an eviction notice. They did present the courts with the limited question of, can we say we are the owners of this property? But then they never finished that action, because actually, I think they can't. But there's a different court that answers that question than housing court, where eviction actions happen. Those two courts are never gonna talk to each other, right? But that's how the law is made. It's made out of these discrete pieces, and even the Warren Court in 1954, faced with two cases, one dealing with school segregation, and another one dealing with the limited question of, is blight, eliminating blight, a public purpose that warrants the use of eminent domain? It dealt with these questions separately, and it dealt with them as legal questions, not social questions, not ethical questions, and not looking at their combined impacts at all. We lost him, like a long time ago. I could keep talking for a while.
Yes, it's a chat room, we have the right. Thanks.
Merci beaucoup aux deux conférenciers. Donc, ma question s'adresse aux deux conférenciers. C'est la même question. Alors, comment vos services professionnels, parce que ce sont des services professionnels, sont financés? Et quelle est la relation entre ces services et la réalité financière des services municipaux et provinciaux?
So we are a community-based nonprofit organization. We are not a part of the government. We were started by myself and a group of activists in a moment in 2011 when it really seemed like it was possible to answer the question, where is the land, and nobody was doing it. So we started doing it. We get some small grants. We get a lot of individual donations from our own community. I would be happy to take a check from anybody here. At the moment, we have enough money to make payroll until June 15th, which is coming up really fast. I made $32,000 last year. I'm the executive director. We have a staff organizer. She doesn't work full-time. She makes a little less than I do. We have a technologist who is a consultant. We pay him when he works, when we can pay him, which isn't all the time. And we've been supported generously by a couple of small foundations. The Sunlight Foundation gave us $10,000 to redo our website. New York Community Trust gave us $10,000 to do outreach to the 7 community planning boards in the districts that have the highest concentrations of vacant public land. We're supported with discretionary funding by some city council members, which is funny because then they expect you to work in their district all year long, making all the changes in the world for $3,000. And you think, wow, okay. But we're really cobbling it together. We apply for a lot of contests. Sometimes we win. We got $4,000 from Big Apps. That was our first piece of funding. We won an app competition.
Michael?
Nous sommes un organisme à but non lucratif. On a pris la décision, en fait, pour la première année, de travailler de façon bénévole complètement. On a été chanceux toutefois. On a gagné également une compétition pour notre site web. Donc, on a gagné un petit peu d'argent pour justement bonifier le site web. Mais c'est ça. Pour l'instant, nous travaillons de façon bénévole et tranquillement, au courant des prochains mois, on va commencer à chercher pour du financement, mais plus au niveau privé.
On me dit qu'on a le temps pour une petite question. Short question, short answer.
Hi, Paula. Thank you very much for your speech. Very inspiring. I did one temporary park on a vacant lot in Montreal, and one of the issues we faced was insurance. And I was wondering who is held accountable for, in terms of insurance? Let's say somebody breaks a leg in one of your acres. What
They're not
happens?
mine. We're
not yours?
just a facilitator.
Because
We-
here we had to go to take that insurance through a non-for-profit that was sponsoring us, but we were just, like citizens, free speech, free of mind, free to design, free to act. But in terms of
No, I'll
insurance,
explain what's-
that went through a godfather, or I'd say a non-for-profit. So do you deal with the insurance as well as legal issues? Or
Of course.
who does?
So we do not control any of the spaces that we help people get access to, and we don't take any we don't supervise how people implement this project in other cities, right? We will consult. I will represent you on a limited legal issue where you need representation, then that ends. The project is yours, right? And now we get into the weeds, right? Now we get into, okay, so there are approximately 16 landholding agencies and authorities in New York City. And some of them are actually municipal agencies, and some are not. And under the law, they're treated more like private landowners than like the city. The city in the courts gets a lot of leeway. It's something called municipal immunity. You hear about it a lot when the police kill people. Oh, why weren't they held responsible? Oh, running a city is really hard. We make mistakes as municipal employees. That's just a mistake that they made while trying to do their job. So we're not going to charge them a lot of money and hold them civilly accountable because municipal immunity. In that context, that sucks. I used to be a civil rights lawyer trying to get some kind of justice for the kind of mistakes that the city makes through its police department. That same municipal immunity works great for people who are actually just volunteers for the city of New York, stewarding vacant municipally owned land. The courts will not hold the city responsible. It gets tricky if a group wants to organize as an official entity for some reason, because then they're vulnerable, right? If they're actually organized, then they should get insurance. If they're just volunteers for the city, they're okay. Then we get into some other things. The Metropolitan Transit Authority, not the city. Your housing authority, not the city. Treated as corporate actors by the courts, and yes, insurance. And yes, somebody needs to hold the certificate. Private land trusts that hold land in trust in perpetuity, also treated by the courts as private entities that will be held liable. They should get insurance. Mm-hmm. Insurance for an open space project is not actually that expensive. It's like $800 a year for a community garden, as long as you're doing the kind of things that you can imagine one would do in a garden. Don't set up a Ferris wheel.
Michael, très rapidement, pour les architectes ici, peut-être paysagistes, qui aimeraient se mobiliser non seulement à Montréal, mais peut-être aussi ailleurs au Québec, la question des assurances au Québec.
C'est drôle parce qu'hier, on a eu une requête de Limoilou. Ils ont peut-être mal compris c'est quoi notre projet. Nous, on est vraiment à Montréal. Selon ce que notre juriste dit, moi, je suis urbaniste stagiaire, en fait. Je suis pas juriste du tout. De par la loi de la Cités et Villes, si je ne me trompe pas, c'est l'article 19, je crois. Bref, de par la loi de la Cités et Villes, une ville ne peut pas se substituer de la responsabilité. Donc, si on est sur un terrain qui est public, la ville garde une partie de la responsabilité. On me dit oui, donc je ne dois pas dire quelque chose de fou. Donc, s'il y a un accord qui est pris entre un groupe citoyen et la ville a une certaine responsabilité. Pour ce qui est d'un terrain privé, bien là, on s'en doute, c'est du gré à gré. S'il y a un accord qui est pris entre un groupe citoyen et un propriétaire privé pour occuper d'une façon ou d'une autre un terrain, bien là, ça va être une discussion entre le propriétaire et le groupe. Ouais.
Merci beaucoup à vous deux. Thank you very much.